Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Red Tinted Glasses podcast. We finally have a long-awaited league victory to discuss and goals as well, as the Dons romped to a 4-0 victory over Dundee at the weekend, past a very convincing win. And you can tell the good times are back because all three of us are back on the podcast once again. Callum, you must be feeling buoyant after that weekend victory.
Oh, I certainly am. It was not only 3 points that I would have taken in any way, shape, or form at this stage, but the fact it was such a good performance. We were moving the ball really, really well, and we got to enjoy 4 goals after not seeing one for so long. It felt like in the league, it was very much welcome, and a Donna Bursa pie as well, just even better. It was a great day. It really was.
And if you want, Callum's going to give us a review of the Gyros when he goes to Athens in a few weeks' time as well. Phil, in your new abode, all settled back into the Northeast, and the Dons also settled into some routine. As Callum said, 4 goals, 1 disallowed as well. And to be honest, it was going on 7 or 8 as well. I think even Stephen Presley admitted that. We spoke, me and Andy Skinner, on the last podcast about really needing to build on Thursday's defeat, but yet encouraging performance. It really felt that we did do that on Sunday against Dundee.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical for one that I move back up to Aberdeen and we start winning as opposed to having to trek back down the road happy. So it's very typical Aberdeen that. But yeah, like you said, I think that was the main thing on the back of Thursday night. Although, you know, we didn't have any points on the board to show for it, the performance was something that had to be built upon. And as Callum said, we definitely did it like buses with the goals, which makes a difference. And yeah, you know, like we'll say, Jesper Carlson was just wonderful. So that was also a joy as well.
Yeah, they say don't fall in love with lone players. Well, Jesper Karlsson's making it incredibly difficult not to, based on yet another wonderful performance. Callum, me and Andy Skinner also spoke about the number of changes we expected to potentially see to the Dons lineup. We calculated before we recorded the episode and made sure we were correct. 5 changes to the lineup. The one change we kind of foresaw was Alexander Jensen coming in at right back. Maybe what we didn't see was Nicky Devlin moving to right centre back. So we saw both of them. I actually thought both had a good game, especially Jensen, who's come in for some from recent criticism. Your thoughts on those 2 performances and what it might mean for Dylan Lobban, who of course has now signed a new deal with the Dons. You have some thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, on Alexander Jensen, I've not been his biggest fan, but I've certainly got to give him credit on this occasion. I think he really benefited from being sort of further up the park initially to start with, instead of having so much ground to cover ahead of him in terms of going forward, and as well having Nicky Devlin in there covering in behind him as well. I thought the 2 worked really well together. Nicky Devlin impressed at centre back after a really tough shift on Thursday against Shakhtar as well. And I was just wondering, with the Dylan Lobban contract extension, and you know, people who've watched the B games in the Aberdeenshire Cup have said he's been really, really impressive. His contract was due to expire at the end of this season. And I do wonder, with both that and Christos Tober's injury, depending on the extent of that, if we will see Dylan Lobban getting more of a chance sort of as cover at that right wing-back role, if we do stick with the formation, if Nicky Devlin's going to drop in at centre-back from time to time, because, you know, games will be coming thick and fast. And he mentioned that Mitchell Frame, Bilalovic and Kjartansson will all be getting game time around sort of the Christmas busy period. And I wonder if that'll be the case for Dylan Lobban. And I think I'm certainly eager for that to be the case, because by the sound of things, he did really well when he first got moved to right back, sort of at Cove. And then he sounds like he's very much impressing, as I said, in the B games. And clearly the manager's seen enough to trust him and give him that deal sort of early on, I suppose, in this season as well. And it's just maybe some food for thought, I suppose. Is that something you'd like to see? Perhaps him getting a chance? I suppose everyone likes to see one of our youngsters getting their own shot in the team.
Well, for how much maligned the academy feels like it's been in recent months, obviously with the restructuring going on. I think it would be great to see an academy prospect going alongside Jack Milne. I think, shout out to Jack, who also had another great game at the weekend, he himself building on that performance that he put in on Thursday night. For Dylan, yeah, I mean, congratulations to him as well, and the team that won the Aberdeenshire Cup on Friday, in pretty horrific conditions at Harlow Park, beating for Martin on penalty. So, he's captained that side to some silverware. Might be in action this weekend for those looking for some Dons content. The young side travel to Boroughbriggs to play Elgin in the Challenge Cup. And I think, yeah, if that opportunity comes around in December time, absolutely, it's good that he's getting minutes alongside Mitchell Frame in this competition. I also wonder, Kjartansson was rumoured to potentially featured against Motherwell in that cup game that we exited in, but picked up a training ground injury. He came back into that squad on Friday night and by all accounts strolled that game as well. So if there is going to be a pathway, then absolutely I'm here for it. And Phil, I suppose, kind of on what Callum says, is if we've now stumbled, it feels like, on that formation that is working, it may allow the opportunity for some of these younger players to fit in. And I think for those that were in attendance on Friday night at Harlow Park, one takeaway was the young side played the same formation as the first team, which will make life integrating into the first team a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you've both kind of touched upon, I think us as a podcast and as a fan base more widely have leveled some criticism at our inability to give young players a chance in the squad. So if there is that opportunity to be had, all the better. And as we saw through the Player of the Year awards, Dylan Maubin picking up the sort of coach's choice effectively for the young players. So obviously someone that Jimmy does rate highly, as is. But I think this formation probably does help him a little bit. I mean, I know in my head, at least, for the longest part, Dylan Maubin did play higher up the park, more maybe in that number 10 role. So potentially would benefit from that sort of wing back position in a similar way to how Jensen's benefited from it, being able to get himself higher up and create those attacking opportunities. But yeah, I think, as you've said, the December period is going to be a slog for us. We're not gifted with, I suppose, the biggest squad in the world, so some of the younger players may have to step in, and I don't necessarily think that's going to be a bad thing.
No, I don't think it's going to be a bad thing as well. And I was kind of looking at our upcoming fixtures, and obviously we've got that free weekend pre-Larnaca, where we should have been travelling to Ibrox. Hibs, I noticed, have rearranged their midweek December fixture for that date. Unfortunately, we can't rearrange our midweek fixture either against Kilmarnock or St Mirren, because both those sides are in action. St Mirren obviously in the League Cup semi-finals, and Kilmarnock in action that weekend against Falkirk. But potentially that free weekend pre-Larnaca could benefit us in European senses, but it just means that we will still have a very clustered December. Callum, Phil mentions there about the wing backs and the role that they're going to have in this formation. Obviously, we touched on Jensen. Gyamfi maybe surprisingly missed out against Shakhtar, and then returned to the starting lineup against Dundee. Now, I mean, folk will say we shouldn't be getting carried away, because Dundee were admittedly extremely poor at the weekend, but I think we have some right to get carried away, and if anyone's going to get carried away, it's going to be you. But Gyamfi stood out on that left wing-back role as well.
Yeah, he certainly did. I think he probably tired towards the end. I think that was visible for sort of all to see, and I guess to be expected when he's not really had a pre-season. But he was really, really solid, and I'm actually really excited to see how he develops with sort of more game time at this level. Of course, he's not played a lot of first-team football, despite the loan at VVV Venlo, I think is how you pronounce them. Glenn, is that Dutch correct for you?
It's good. It's good enough for me.
Right. I suppose I'm asking the wrong sort of Dutch person here for that. But
what's
he's
Dutch
not.
now, is he?
Well, no, I'm not meaning. I'm just meaning you've got any idea, is what I mean. He's
I just
sort
said
of
VVV, but you're close enough.
I said VVV, I think. I don't know.
It's a Duolingo lesson now.
I know. He was good, Emmanuel Gyamfi, and he's come through at a high level of academy at Schalke. He's not played an awful lot of first team football, and I'm really excited to see how he grows in that position. I think he benefits as well, like Jensen on the opposite side, from being a wing back rather than a full back. So I think the questions of Emmanuel Gyamfi when he was signed was about how he is defensively, and of course he's then got Mats Knuster right behind him to help him out with that. But on the rare occasion he was asked questions, he dealt with it very well. Getting forward, he was incredible. Obviously, that culminated in his goal, which he was absolutely delighted about, and flattened Stuart Armstrong in celebration, which I really enjoyed. But it was really, really encouraging from him. And I think, as I said, even though we've sort of stumbled across this formation, it maybe feels like, I'm sure there was a lot more thinking from Tilleen in the backroom staff than somewhere across it. But it does actually feel like it suits us really well, especially with the fullbacks turning into wing backs, and it gives a lot more solidity, as well as, I know it was Dundee and they were, for all intensive purposes, terrible. We looked so much better, and it was exciting play. It wasn't just a win. It was every time we were going forward, it felt like something could happen, whether that was through the wing backs going forward or Ashish, and of course Jesper Carlson, who was incredible, and I'm sure we'll come on to speak to him at great length.
Yeah, I mean, we could dedicate the entire podcast to Jesper Carlson, but on Gyamfi as well, Phil, as Callum says, both fullbacks looked solid defensively, and I thought we saw a better game from Alexander Jensen going forward. But for Gyamfi specifically, his finish for that goal is very astute as well. He actually opens the foot to angle the ball into that bottom corner. It's not a rushed finish at all.
Yeah, I mean, Gyamfi was really impressive for me. Obviously, I know that Carlson's going to take the headlines, and rightfully so, alongside the Man of the Match award. But for me, I think Gyamfi was close behind, like Callum's touched upon. I thought when he was asked to contribute defensively, I thought he was really, really solid, deceptively strong as well. I didn't expect him to be as solid as he was in terms of holding his man off. And like you say, getting forward, he was just so explosively quick. His goal, I mean, even the ball over to Stuart Armstrong at the start of the move as well, to clip it in behind, and then have the desire to make that run into the box was brilliant to see. And like you say, the finish was it was almost a striker-esque finish on his weaker foot. So yeah, really, really impressed by him, and hopefully he can start to solidify himself in the squad and get more adapted to Scottish football and make a bit of a name for himself.
I just wanted to say, I just want to say on it, some of his footwork as well in real tight spaces as well was incredible, and I really liked that. Even though towards the end of the game perhaps things were getting a bit slack, I liked that Gyamfi was enjoying himself. I don't know, maybe Phil, you had a better view from the south stand. Some of his passing, he was just putting a little bit of backspin on it and really having fun out there, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said earlier. I think you can really tell the sort of quality that he's came through as a young player. I mean, he's only 20. You can tell that he's came through solid youth systems and played in, obviously, like you say, the Netherlands and then at Schalke. So really that quality technical footballer. And like I say, even when he was going down with cramp towards the end, he was still going down with a smile on his face, which I did quite enjoy.
Yeah, I did notice him. I think it was probably the realization as well that we'd made all our subs, so he was going to have to soldier through however long was left as well. I just wonder, either of you can chirp in on this as well, if he has a solid performance in the game against St Mirren on the back of the international break, does he stake a claim to hold that wing back spot for the trip to Athens on the Thursday night? Because obviously, maybe to some surprise, Toby Keskinen filled that role against Shakhtar.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the Keskinen one against Shakhtar came as a surprise to most. Admittedly, I do think he was quite good on the defensive side of things in that Shakhtar game. But, if we are going to sort of persist with this sort of 3/5, whatever people want to call it, you probably would want a more natural out-and-out wing-back, which Gyamfi seems to me. With the lack of the pre-season, it could potentially be too many games too quickly. And like you've already said, that might be where Mitchell Frame gets an opportunity. Keskinen maybe gets put back into that left wing-back. Maybe even Shinnie gets put out there like we saw in the cup final. So There are options there, but if it's in his legs to play those games, I think you'd want him in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Graham Shinney, we saw him return to the midfield. We'll speak about some of the rest of the midfield, but Adil Oshish, Callum, a player that after the Motherwell game away, I was quite happy to send back to Sunderland. For me, has frustrated for large parts of his time here in Aberdeen so far. Yes, we've saw glimpses of quality here and there, maybe even so in his goal at the weekend, because it's actually an extremely good finish when he's lying on his backside. Do you think that could be something to give him confidence going forward? We speak all the time about strikers needing a goal to, get that weight off their shoulders. And I wonder how much Sunday's first goal in Aberdeen colours is going to help Adil.
Yeah, I had hoped that one of Lazetic or Nisbet would get one to sort of get them firing, to be honest. But certainly agree in terms of Adil Oshish. And one thing that actually stood out to me even more than, of course, he got the goal and he did well and he battled there. The amount of the work rate in the pressing in terms of winning the ball back that he put in really, really impressed me. And I sort of thought perhaps he was going to be a bit of a luxury player, kind of. But on Sunday, that really was not the case. And he was running his little legs off. It was incredible. I thought he did really, really well in terms of that. It really, really impressed me. Sort of probably as a whole for the whole team, but he was maybe the one that stood out most because I expected it least. I'm delighted for him to get the goal. He certainly loved it. And I thought it was really funny seeing him celebrate a goal where he's lying on the floor and sort of prods it home like that, which I enjoyed that he probably went for it. But credit to him for sticking at it in that goal. And trying to get the ball goalwards, even though he's lying on the deck with players around him. If you're looking at it from an outside perspective, it's probably the most, or maybe from a Dundee perspective, it's maybe the most like Dundee goal they could have conceded right now. But regardless, credit's got to go for him for that, and certainly for his work rate as well. It was really impressive for me.
And I think as well, it's maybe that little bit of luck, Phil, that we've been craving in terms of that goal, as well, especially when many might have thought, is this going to be not our day again? When I think Jesper Carlson doesn't need to pass it to Nisbet, because seeing his finish for the fourth goal, he could have probably tucked it in the bottom corner. But unselfishly, as Callum says, maybe trying to look to Nisbet and Lazetic obviously later on to get their confidence up by getting a goal. But somehow Kevin Nisbet picks out the only man on the line with his shot. Hopefully Adil builds on that confidence. But Graham Shinney, I thought he was good in the midfield. But again, my biggest takeaway from him was his sense of frustration again when he was taken off. I again don't know if that's his minutes being managed or if it was a bit of maybe man management from Jimmy Tilleen, offering Sivert Nielsen the opportunity to come onto the pitch when he wasn't going to be booed on, with the Dons very much cruising, and allow him to be audibly cheered onto the pitch, unlike Thursday night.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of players in the squad that are requiring a bit of confidence. Like say, hopefully that's the one that Adil can latch onto and build from there. Conversely, Nielsen's another one that, not that I think Thursday probably affected him. Just, he's been around the block. He's kind of seen most of what football fans can throw at you. I think he's one that could probably build with a little bit of confidence off the back of that, because it was pretty poor. Let's be real, it was pretty atrocious. So potentially, like you say, a bit of man management there. I thought Sinead had a good game. I think he seems to look quite good in that sort of pivot with Stuart Armstrong. Admittedly, like we've said, the only quality in that Dundee side were probably Presley's breeks, to be honest, were the nicest thing on show. So kind of hard to take much from it. But yeah, I think the frustration's always going to kind of feed into speculation. There's been the rumours of the falling out between him and Jimmy, etc. And I feel like that happens every time we go on a bad run. But hey ho. So and again, Shinney's just one of those players where he does want to run for the full 90. He does want to play the full 90, regardless of the outcome, whether you're 4-0 up or 4-0 down. He's going to want to be on the pitch. So probably not too much to look into, but like we've all said already, it's a busy period of fixtures coming up post international break, so potentially a little bit of management of the legs there.
Yeah, and it really does feel like the international breaks come at the worst time for us in the sense that we've got our first win of the season and we're still rooted to the bottom of the table. But conversely, a little bit of momentum has been building. Callum, you mentioned there describing Adil Oshish as a luxury player. Now, obviously, on the back of the transfer window, we had to wait a couple of days to see Stuart Armstrong arrive. Jesper Karlsson arrived very late. Both of them, I think you could describe as luxury players. Players that, I mean, fair play to Dave Cormack and the board, because they look miles out of place in our team, let alone the Scottish Premiership right now, because Stuart Armstrong, for me, is an absolute class above. His range of passing, he is like a Rolls Royce in that midfield. The way he elegantly glides across the grass, and then, yeah, we'll come on to Jesper outright. But last time both of you were on the podcast was post Dundee United, where you'd both had a bit of doubts about how amazing Stuart Armstrong was, but a player that for me feels like he's going from strength to strength right now.
Yeah, certainly. I think it would be correct to call him amazing after this game against a side from the city of Discovery. Yeah, he's so impressive. There's a reason we, amongst my friends, I've nicknamed him the best ball carrier in world football, and that was before he played for Aberdeen. And he's so good. At 33 years of age, he's still just picking up that ball, driving through midfields and taking the game to the opposition. He was so impressive. He was, apparently he scores belters all the time. We've not yet seen it, but by God, was he trying as well at the weekend, which was certainly encouraging. I think that's probably been a gripe as well of our, certainly amongst myself and my people I go to games with, that we don't take shots on nearly enough. I thought that was so much better on Sunday. Stuart Armstrong and, as you mentioned, Jesper Carlson as well, both doing that. Stuart Armstrong's bloody good, and we can only hope he stays fit, because when he plays, it's so clear, as you said, that he's a class above. And as I mentioned in sort of my BBC fans voice, which you can read on the BBC website, when Carlson and Armstrong arrived, we sort of thought, these are the type of players that can really dig us out of the mire and make us a much better side. And they certainly did that on Sunday. Very impressive from the two of them. But as you say, with Stuart Armstrong, the way his range of passing and the way, as you mentioned, glides, I think that's the best way to describe it. Just beyond players and the close control in small spaces as well. He was a joy to watch. I think that's the best way you can put it.
Yeah, I'm blaming my Dundee United comments. I think he must have still been on Canadian time, so a bit jet lagged perhaps. So I think he's breathed in the fresh sea air. He's had a few rowies, and he's ready to rock in the northeast. And yeah, I think if we keep on sort of dripping like a knackered fridge over him, we're going to have to put an 18+ warning on this podcast. But I think it's merited after his performance. An absolute bloody legend.
Yeah, he's been doing some laps around Hazelhead Park in his full Aberdeen tracksuit to get really up to speed. And yeah, I think you're right, Callum. The way the ball kind of sticks to his feet with that close control was really impressive. And I think you're right. Has, as you said in your fans piece, some excellent delegation from me to you on that part. It has elevated us, and Phil, this is what we were hoping for and praying. And I guess going back to something that Skinner spoke about when he kind of first came on the podcast helping us out, was how long it's going to take for certain players to click and find the right combinations. Thursday, we saw glimpses. Sunday, we possibly saw signs of the real deal of what this squad can do. I know people are saying let's not get too carried away because it was Dundee, and as Callum said, they were quite frankly terrible. I don't think there's any getting away from that. But given how terrible we've been, I think we've got to hold on to those shoots of confidence and ride the wave into the St Mirren game coming up.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, we did it last time when Jimmy first came in. We got in that good run. It was all just about riding that wave and taking momentum whilst you've got it. And I think we really need to do the same here. I'm hoping the international break gives us a bit more time to work on that sort of rejigged shape, I suppose. maybe allow the lads that came in a bit later, like Carlson, like Armstrong, the ones that came with injuries such as Giamfi, to kind of get a little bit more match fitness in. Because I think the big thing here is probably managing minutes and keeping the legs for those European games. Because I would hate to think of Stuart Armstrong not featuring in any of those.
Yeah, and I think the key is, make sure, as you say, keep him fit, because he will really be important to keep that midfield ticking over. And we saw that quality alongside Leighton Clarkson, Ante Palaverson. It's almost like we might have a European midfield versus a domestic midfield, but Stuart Armstrong is going to be at the heart of that midfield. But in terms of the quality that this team has been crying out for, Callum, Jesper Carlson showed it in abundance this weekend. I mean, from the video reaction that Callum Melvin did, that he posted on his Twitter account, reacting live to Jesper Karlsson's goal, was probably all of us in attendance at Pittodrie as well. The confidence to step up and take a penalty. Yes, McCracken goes the right way, but it's powerful enough to go under him. His all-round game has really shown why, when we signed him, fans were like, Aberdeen? Really? It's certainly got the Swedish fans excited, let alone the Aberdeen fans.
Yeah, it did. I think Sunday was, barring maybe probably glimpses, he was better on the Thursday against Shakhtar. Sunday was the first time I've gone, oh my God, no, right, he is actually really, really good. There's always little touches and a little bit of spells, but I may or may not have described him at times as Yepiokos with an Italian gap here. However, that is not the case. I'll retract that statement. He was incredible, and even if he didn't score the 2 goals, the way he was finding those half spaces and making things click for us, and just getting the ball on the half turn and immediately going at Dundee. He was incredible, and if we can see more of that from him on a consistent basis, now that he's had a few games he's bedded in, likewise with Stuart Armstrong, then you would like to think that things will only get better for Aberdeen. Maybe not better than a 4-0 win, because I can't see too many of them coming over the piece. But in terms of consistent results, if that can happen, as well as improvement all around the park, then you would hope things can start to move upwards. But yeah, he was class. I mean, I'll mention now the footwork for his second goal was crazy. I thought, why is he not shot on his left foot straight away? He's got 3 players around him. And I noticed it at the time, but it's only upon watching it a million times in the replay where you really appreciate the sort of really quick, tiny touches to give himself a little space to hit it sort of on the swivel and find the top corner. It was incredible. Not sure about the gritty, admittedly, but when he does that, I suppose he can do whatever he likes. I'll give him that freedom. Oh yes, and that earlier, Phil.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big fan of the gritty. Not quite Justin Jefferson type, but it's up there. The reindeer celebration, not sure on that, definitely, Phil. But I think, as much as we lavish praise on Stuart Armstrong for his close control, I think Jesper Karlsson's right up there. The way he sometimes takes the ball out of the air from Jack Milne's, long balls up to him, or even Stuart Armstrong, he's up there in that close control, and the quality is absolutely there. It's taken time for him to show. You mentioned there that the kind of little intricate touches that allow him to get the space for the second goal. Obviously, for where I sit in the red shed, it was right in front of me, and I could see that firsthand. But like you were saying, Callum, kind of for you on the south stand side, I shared that same frustration. I was like, just fucking pass it back to Lazetic. Stop pricking about with the ball. But of course, he knows exactly what he's doing. And I think, on some of the highlight reels, he's scored similar goals, Phil, well marked by defenders, but it doesn't matter. He's got that quickness in his feet to get an inch and find really well the top corner, because it's a lot of power. We spoke about the power behind the goal that Shakhtar scored at Pittodrie on Thursday night, the third goal, but that's equally as powerful from Jesper Carlson as well, to get it past the 3 defenders and McCracken in goal.
Yeah, like you say, the footwork is superb. The finish is even better. And I think probably shouldn't really be surprised at the power that he has. We've seen quite a lot of it in the sort of highlight packages of his goals at Alkmaar and Elfsborg, where he's picking them in from 30 yards. And like Callum said, one of my gripes is our inability to shoot from range. So to have somebody that does possess that quality is really good. But I think for me as well, one of my favourite things about him is just watching him off the ball. I mean, you can tell that he's just played amongst elite level players and elite level midfielders that, maybe see the game slightly quicker than some of the players we have at our disposal, because some of the runs he makes are just unbelievable. He just always seems to be on the blind side of a defender and in behind, and he's just never quite getting noticed half the time. So
even his set piece deliveries as well, because Phil, I know
just
it's
whipping them in
as well, ball in for the goal that was disallowed, but every corner is fizzed in at some pace. Unfortunately, we never seem to have anyone on the end of them, but one day it'll pay off.
Yeah. Like I say, I think there's just so much quality that he possesses, and it'll be wishful to think that we'll have him any longer than this season. So it is just a case of enjoying him whilst we have him, because we're watching an absolute master at work, I think.
We are, and we are watching a master at work. And speaking of masters, Phil, we are running a competition in collaboration with Tekka for the Stealth Competition Scottish Masters, which is on at Tekka, as I said, 14th of November. Celtic, Dundee United, Aberdeen, and Rangers legends will be taking part in the event, and we have 2 pairs of tickets. With VIP view bar upgrade available. We'll run one competition here on the YouTube channel and run one competition over on our Twitter page at RTG_podcast. We will get them out probably over the weekend as well. The competition here on the YouTube channel will be for members of the channel. So if you are a paid member here on the channel, it's a special thanks to those. So we'll run a competition between those of you that do that. If you're also not successful within the competition, we will put a link where you can get 10% off tickets. That will be in the description here on the YouTube channel and also your audio platform of choice. The link will also be on a previous post we've put on our Twitter page as well. So get involved in that. Obviously, Aberdeen looking to retain that trophy as well, and I'm sure it's going to be another great night of Masters football action. We're all going. Well, actually, Callum's hoping to join us, but myself and Phil will be there. Callum, I'm sure you'd love to join us as well.
Yes, I certainly would if I can change my tickets to go and see Hamilton the musical. If I could change that, then I'll be there, and I'd love to. I'd love to see Aberdeen lift another trophy. We're on a little bit of a run, winning the last Masters tournament, the Scottish Cup, the Aberdeenshire Cup, all the big ones. So it'll be great to go and see Aberdeen win another one. That'd be fantastic. So hopefully I will be in attendance. Yes, thank you, Glenn. But
at least it's not Hamilton Academical, Callum. So take your wins where you can.
It could always be worse, and it could always be worse. That would be. I don't think I'd have to try and get out of that. I think I would just happily avoid and just go to the Masters instead.
Yeah, and big thanks obviously for that. It also has to go to Rob Wicks and his team at Tekka. We've got a bit of media access to that as well, so we'll maybe try and bring some exclusive content to that. Yes, Callum, hashtag ad, hashtag gifted. We'll get that in there as well. Back to the Dons action, Callum. How important is it when we return to action in Paisley in what's this going to be 10 days time at time of recording, that we continue to build on that? And I think, as Phil also touched on, and yourself as well, in terms of building minutes, you look at the impact that Marko Lazetic had off the bench. I think, for as much as we praise Jesper Karlsson for that second goal he scores, Marko Lazetic gets a nutmeg in a couple of close controls, and people are thinking, why the fuck didn't you do that against Motherwell a few weeks back? But, if he gets a run out against Elgin this weekend, he'll be, chapping at the door of Jimmy Tilleen asking for a start over Kevin Nisbet. And, based on what we saw in that impact, there is going to be an argument about him leading the line.
Yeah, and I think he led the line well against Shakhtar as well previously, but certainly impressive. I just wish he's able to get that goal because I think once he gets that under his belt, the confidence should start to grow. And I mean, if that could be against St Mirren, then that would be fantastic, because it's going to be a very difficult place to go. It's not the ideal fixture to have after this international break away to St Mirren. Notoriously difficult, but I just think getting those 3 points, and okay, yeah, we're still at the bottom. And I was like, God, we just won 4-0 and we're still at the bottom of the league. Very unfortunate. But to go into the international break, the players will be in a great mindset for those that aren't away as well. And as Phil said, it's a chance to maybe, the 3/5 back was good, perhaps a chance to perfect it over the international break, and with players in good spirits, all of them in good form, just maybe lacking goals in the sort of strikers department. It's certainly a good place to be, and I think it'll be a real test when that trip to Paisley comes round, of truly how much better we're going to do in this 3/5 back, because we looked better against Motherwell, looked even better against Shakhtar, and then finally managed to get a win and 4 goals. But Paisley could be very challenging, but I'm feeling a lot better about it now than had we not won over the weekend, certainly.
Yeah, and Phil, as Calm says, you think, yes, we've won, and we've gone 5-6 games without a goal, rooted to the bottom of the table with 1 point, and then suddenly we go and put in a performance that's actually the highest scoring victory in the league this season. Truly, once again, turning into a bit of Jekyll and Hyde. Looking at the upcoming fixtures between now and the next international break, obviously as we go into this one in October, the next one coming mid-November, and then, yes, for those of you that don't like international football, that isn't done until March. It is a trip to St Mirren, a home game against Hibs, midweek trip to Kilmarnock, then of course that free weekend ahead of a league game at home to Motherwell after the trip to Larnaca. It's maybe not the most forgiving set of fixtures on paper, but as we've seen so far this season, those fixtures that look fair on paper haven't turned out that way, and maybe having stumbled on a new set, a new formation, and a newfound confidence, we can look at these games with a newfound perspective that actually we could be okay.
Yeah, I mean, as frustrating as it is, Sunday kind of felt like that was our season starting a little bit. It shouldn't have taken as long as it did for it to get started, but it kind of had that feeling of, okay, things are starting to click now, like Callum was saying. I think the main thing on the back of the start we've had is to just continually build. And I think that's, where we've got to go from that Dundee game, is just to, if we are deciding that this formation is the route we want to go down, we've just got to continually build and really get to grips with it and get everybody up to speed with what's going on. I think the run-in will probably be tough. But with the way the league has gone so far this season, it seems like there's not really going to be much easy fixtures on paper. Teams seem to be pulling out performances when they're needed. And there's a lot of exciting football on display in the league as well, which is good as a whole, but I suppose makes it way less predictable from a sort of perspective of on paper football, which sadly is never how it's played. But yeah, exciting times. I think getting the 4 goals really, I think we all would have taken a scrappy 1-0, but I think the manner in which we won, as a fan base, kind of boosted us a little bit. So yeah, going into Paisley, which is typically tough, I think, hopefully we're going in with a bit of a renewed sense of belief as a squad.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely got to be some belief, if not through the squad, some of maybe the doubters that remained in the fan base. And again, looking at that league table, nobody's really beating anybody consistently at this moment in time. There's a lot of draws throughout the league right now. So yes, we are still bottom, but we're 6 points off third place, 5 points off Dundee United, who you would think have won the league title the way they beat us at Tannadice. They're only 5 points ahead. So, the league is still very much bunched up. And I think the next 4 league games pre-November international break, Callum, will be important just to keep that momentum of putting points on the board. Yes, we might not get victories, but looking at St Mirren in isolation, a venue that we struggle at, if we get a point there, that will be seen as continuing building from the shaky start. Especially when I was just looking at the run of fixtures from the Noah game at the end of November, we'll have 10 games in the space of 34 days.
Christ.
Yeah, and I think that's just your reaction to how many podcasts we're going to have to churn out.
Oh yeah, true. That's a game and a podcast every 3.4 days.
Nothing gets past you.
I know.
The XP is off the scales, man.
Oh yeah, expected podcast. Shut up, Phil. Yeah, that is tough, and in this stretch, which I think if we didn't have the 2 European games, I'd certainly be feeling a lot better about it. But the fact it's 2 European games, 2 away games as well, just adds to the sort of fatigue and, I was going to say malaise, but hopefully we'll have shaken off malaise and we won't have to use it again this season. That'd be fantastic. But that being said, as you say, picking up points regardless of its wins, especially I'm looking at the away games with St Mirren and Kilmarnock, picking up points in any sort of manner, I think is building on that, and you would hope. I mean, I certainly thought this way we were going to play Falkirk and Livingston at home that we'd pick up points, pick up wins, but with Hibs not quite where they were, maybe a last season and a chance for redemption after that double whammy against Motherwell too. I don't want to get carried away, but I would certainly hope that things can start to improve. And as we mentioned, I think the team as a whole over these past 3 games have made that gradual improvement, and now we've got the 3 points. They'll be feeling so much better about things, and I think to be honest, part of what has maybe helped was getting that applause after the Shakhtar game for their efforts, getting that warm reception. I left the game thinking like, okay, we've not come away with anything, but it would have been nice for them, considering the barrage of abuse and the boos that they've had in recent times, to get that reception for their efforts and us to recognise them, and probably pretty much likewise back for sort of sticking. I was going to say sticking together. Maybe it wasn't that at times, but just for their efforts, and if we can continue to build on that and sort of get that unity back, then that would be fantastic, I think, and things should only get better. But it's certainly a big, between now and that next international break, it feels massive.
It does, and unity was actually a word I wrote down whilst you were speaking before you even mentioned it, because Phil, I know you've not given the 4 threads a mention yet, but Scotty McLennan posted that video at full time of the unity of the Red Shed, congratulating and applauding the players' efforts, as Callum touches on. And I think even Jimmy Talleen sounded a lot more positive and upbeat, as well as Callum touches on there. The fans once again have that little bit of belief and feel good factor that obviously 3 points brings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I mentioned it in the last episode I was on about the sort of the main thing that Jimmy had brought to the club and brought to the city was this sort of sense of belief in Aberdeen and the unity from the stands to the pitch. So it's been good to see that sort of return in abundance, sort of following the Shakhtar game and then the Dundee game. So yeah, I think hopefully everyone will start to be a bit more behind him in the squad. Obviously, Paisley result pending, as we know what football fans can be like. But yeah, no, it's been interesting on Twitter, seeing quite a lot of the almost backtracking tweets at times regarding Jimmy in this squad. But yeah, no, hopefully a nice full voiced crowd in Paisley.
This was a backtracking podcast for me. Never mind the tweets.
Well, yeah.
If it was backtracking, we should have got Jay Moyer on, seeing some of his tweets over the last week as well.
But yeah, hopefully a nice full voiced crowd in Paisley. I think there's only about 100 odd tickets left, and yeah, hopefully that feeds its way onto the pitch once more, and we're back to Jimmy's high flying 3 at the back, 5 at the back, Swedish master red things or whatever.
You started that strong, Phil, and then it really petered off.
I know, my heatings came on and I'm overheating, Callum.
Yeah, well, it feels like we're back, but we're into an international break. So the feel-good factor is hopefully returned, and we've filled your ears or your TV screens with some Dons-related content whilst Scotland takes centre stage over the next few days. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, leave a like on the video, comment down below with your thoughts over the international break, subscribe, become a member to the YouTube channel as well, of course, if you want to get involved with that competition for the Masters. We'll get that posted on our Twitter page as well, and the 10% link is in the comments and description as well. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. Until next time, we'll see you then.